Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead, agriculture meteorologist. Greg Soujle is with us today. Welcome, Greg. Great to have you with us.
Hello, Sarah. Nice to be with you here on a Tuesday with plenty of summertime weather to discuss, talk about, deal with, and endure over a big area of the country, from livestock and poultry areas to the usual row crop areas from the plains into the Corn Belt. But nice to be with you here on a Tuesday.
Yeah, lots of talk about extreme conditions, if
Yes.
I'm hearing things correctly. But I'm sure you'll fill us in on what that looks like.
Exactly. Well, what do you say we get into it here on this 22nd of July, onto the weather maps and charts and the headlines for the day to day. First, in the Corn Belt, it's been a series of cold fronts that they move through with vim and vigor over the northern parts of the complex, the northern plains, the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, upper Great Lakes areas, and then they lose their oomph as they continue to run into this big, massive block of building, sinking, compressing air, hot, high pressure. And folks who are more or less, weather watchers, a little more skilled in watching weather, that tends to be a lot of our viewers and listeners, producers and ranchers and all that, the weather scene. And, so we don't have a big south wind. It's not blowing at 30 miles an hour. It's what we call compressional warming. The atmosphere gets so heavy, it sinks on down. If you work, and we've done this analogy before, if you work on equipment, engines in the shop, in the shed, you compress a gas, it heats on up just like an engine. Same with the atmosphere. So the atmosphere is loaded up with a lot of what we call height. And so it sinks on down. You get heat, you get without any wind, you just absorb and pick up and radiate all that moisture, wet grounds, moisture off the Pacific, the monsoon setup, Gulf moisture, and it's corn sweat season across the Midwest. And so some of the bigger, taller crop canopies and my radio pals in Champaign and Danville and vicinity down there say things are looking tall and fine, and they're just worried about any storms that will come on through. But heat and humidity across the central and western Corn Belt, 95 to 100 degrees as far in as South Dakota, but temperatures were about that category, but they've crashed farther north and northwest, and no shortage of generating at least the upper Midwest and some of the key drought areas, mind you, showers and thunderstorms. Meanwhile, that cool air not coming southward, it'll zip to the east and really get modified over the upper Midwest, Great Lakes areas. But it's been showers and thunderstorms, downpours, etc., so forth and so on. But moisture relief, greening up of pastures, better soil moisture in some areas. It's a long way to go, but through Montana and North Dakota, despite the recent rain, still some poor and very poor conditions on the spring wheat side of things in areas of especially Montana. The national average is about 16%. 41% of the spring rains are in that poor and very poor category. Rangelands are not looking too good as well. So hopefully this rain, and there's more to come in the coming next 2 or 3 weeks, will ultimately get a little more growth and development and greening up in those same areas. 110-degree heat index values. That's why you need to pay heed to those heat advisories, warnings, and all that down through Dixie, the southeastern plains. Boy, is a tough one on man and beast and poultry operations as well. Space them out, water them down. It's a phrase Max Armstrong hates when I say that all the time, but that's what the livestock guys tend to do in those confinement areas. You make sure the water lines are going full tilt, and we're beginning to see some dryness because of all the heat into parts of Arkansas, despite that little tropical system that came ashore about a week to 10 days ago down through the lower Mississippi Valley, parts of Arkansas and Georgia and Mississippi beginning to see their topsoils dry on out. No sign, by the way, and we'll see the panel in a second, of the tropics getting busy. It's even too warm, too hot up aloft in the open waters of the Atlantic. That's how far east this hot high has situated itself. You tend to watch for systems to come off the African coast and kind of undercut that high, but not happening. The atmosphere is even too warm in the tropical waters. So things for now, we think they're going to stay quiet for the next 2, 3, maybe month of weather out into the open waters of the Atlantic. We'll see what happens. In any event, Western states, heavy need for irrigation moisture into parts of the southwestern states. Wildfires, the story as well. Hot weather has wound down to temperatures a little more in line to seasonal norms. Washington State, and Oregon really leading the pack in some poor and very poor, or short and very short, whether it's spring or winter wheat or topsoil moisture into that part of the country. That's been an area, I believe it's the Madras, Oregon, that has about almost 100,000 acres up in smoke in fires because of these dry-based thunderstorms in the Northwest, which you can see in the maps and charts. But the only thing that's really organized is east of the divide. through Montana. More showers and thunderstorms this afternoon up across the Dakotas. The monsoon season and moisture continues on. You can see this boundary the past couple of days. It was responsible actually since late last week for delivering recurring rain across Iowa, western and southern Illinois, Missouri as well. There's a spot in Fayette County, Illinois, north of I-64, south of I-70, maybe an hour and a half east of St. Louis. 13 and a half inches of rain since Thursday down there. So some of those cornfields, I'm sure, are underwater. Same boundary that you can see that dashed red circle, blue triangular line that runs from the eastern Dakotas down into areas of the Carolinas. That separates seasonal air to the east of the eastern Corn Belt. The hot stuff is at that boundary in west, and we're still getting, although the atmosphere is beginning to warm, some of these scattered showers and thunderstorms in the western Corn Belt. The organized rains, New Mexico, flash flood potential there. Across the Dakotas again, severe weather should break out through the northern parts of the Dakotas and Montana this afternoon. The rainy season is underway, and there should be at least some modest drought improvement with systems, both the Gulf breeze and the Atlantic breeze converging right over central Florida for afternoon showers and thunderstorms there. You can see the rain diminishing on that now warm front through the Mississippi Valley. The atmosphere is getting too warm up aloft. You think with all the heat and humidity any time of the day you could pop a thunderstorm, but you can't, because the atmosphere warms relative to height and you can't get the clouds to grow vertically very well. And so that's what we call a capped off atmosphere. But if you lose a couple degrees up aloft, 25, 30,000 feet, it's what we call busting the cap. And if you get one thunderstorm to go, it becomes a mind of its own little atmospheric engine, and it can corrupt that hot atmosphere on a smaller scale basis. But anyway, organized rains across the Dakotas, upper Midwest, and through tomorrow morning. More rain in the dry, drought-ridden areas, and we're making big improvement. Minnesota, Nebraska, Iowa. I think we're going to see a cumulative effect improvement on the drought monitor out there. But this time of the year, you got to watch those severe storms in the upper Midwest as well. Thursday, still scattered showers and thunderstorms. That front begins to stall out as it encounters that front across the plains, the hot atmosphere up aloft. You can see a separation between those rains and the rains over the southeastern states, where the atmosphere is cool enough through daytime heating to make rain through the Carolinas and down through Georgia. And that's pretty much the way it goes on rainfall chances. But at least the next 2 days, iffy across Missouri. Again, that's an area that has some big rains. There's very little, if any, drought issues there. More drought improvement for Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa. That's the next 2 day forecast. Some spots upwards of an inch and a half or two. The rainy season continues in the southeast through Georgia. More wet weather through western Texas and the southwestern states, and beginning to cap off the atmosphere over the southeastern plains, and nothing to trip off any rain in the far eastern Corn Belt, although they've had a fair amount of rain too the past week to 10 days out of Indiana and especially Ohio. Severe weather this afternoon, Nebraska, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Got to keep an eye, especially as we get into the end part of this week, the weekend, early next week. We'll talk about the movement of a hot high, the strengthening of the winds up aloft, and how we're going to get into some derechos, I think, over the weekend and into next week. A quick little panel from the folks of the Weather Service. You can see the core of the heat really centered on the Mississippi Valley into the central and southern Corn Belt for the next week to 10 days. It'll ebb and flow, and it's not really temperatures by themselves. It's these humidity values, these dew points. You can feel the humidity in the air at a dew point of about 60 to 65. Gets a little humid, if you will, for some at 65 to 70. It feels like Florida at a dew point of 70 to 75. It feels like the Caribbean, the coastal sections of Mexico, the southern Gulf of Mexico at a dew point of 75 to 80. And I'm sure we will have some spots in Illinois and Indiana that have dew points up past 80 degrees. I believe back in the big heat wave around the Chicago area, I believe it was about 30 years ago, to the date almost, we had dew points here in the Chicagoland area, broke the record for that being registered at O'Hare Field. And I know it's a metropolitan urban area, but it was part of the corn sweat and a bit of a south wind that got dew points up past about 82 or 83. And it was just absolutely oppressive. So some of those areas of the Midwest might very well experience that. That corn is going to maybe struggle a little bit because it's going to go day and night, and some pretty tough sleeping conditions at night if you don't have proper ventilation and cooling. There's nothing going on in the tropics. Nothing. The next 7 to 10 to 14 to probably the next 3 weeks, we're thinking, at least from our estimate here in the Weather Office. And so much for the early and often start to the tropical weather season. Still think it's El Nino in control. That's just our estimates here and our way of looking at weather in this particular weather office. So heat and humidity over the southeastern plains, western Gulf Coast, mid-Atlantic states are the headlines going forward the next 3 to 5 days. Again, the hot ridge, the ring of fire, bust out your Johnny Cash song or whatever. That storm pattern continues on for the upper Midwest, into areas of the northern plains, the Great Lakes region, parts of the southeastern sections of the country. Again, that'll be downpour producing stuff off the Gulf Coast, and even the northern plains and northern Rockies will get into the ring of fire set up for the monsoon moisture in the southwest into the northern plains and southeast from there. Otherwise, on the western flank of that hot ridge, it's thunderstorm activity, but dry base thunderstorm activity, hence fires, lightnings, and the fire situation expands across the Pacific Northwest and West. However, coming ashore between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, a little trough, that U-shaped configuration, so there'll be some further cooling, but it also sparks additional thunderstorm activity. You can see the H migrating over the southeast, then it moves into the southern plains and it expands and strengthens there between Monday and Tuesday. And you can see those lines getting tighter and tighter up across Canada, over towards maybe New Hampshire and Maine. That is a trough and a cold front that's going to kind of come down and retrograde or move the hot high farther west, hence with temperatures farther west. So we re-agitate and activate the southwestern monsoon setup, but those strong winds will come into contact with Gulf moisture, heat, and there'll be boundaries up there for the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Great Lakes region. So we got to keep an eye on severe weather potential. That is a fairly strong wind field on the north and eastern flank of that hot high. It's the right setup for derechos. And, everyone talks about in the coffee shop how great the fields have been, maybe just a little leaf wilt, but things are looking green and waxy in east central Illinois. But you get into the storm season and sometimes one thunderstorm, one rush of wind, and you're right back to square one. That great looking crop is down to nothing, and you're already making phone calls to get the right implements for harvest season. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, again, a couple of fronts. Main thing, you can see some fronts trying to move into the northern plains. They make it to the Great Lakes. They get to about I-80 and they stall. Again, they stall there because they can't move past that hot high. And then winds are up aloft, as we talked about, they're blowing along those boundaries between Monday and Tuesday. And the winds are converging at the lower levels of the atmosphere. So the rudimentary ingredients are there to make these showers and thunderstorms again for the northern plains, upper Midwest, and eastern Great Lakes region, where the next 7 days, if I squint here, 3, 4, 5 inches of rain. Parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, at least an inch or two may come with severe stuff, but over a good part of the Corn Belt, still wet across the Gulf Coast. And the monsoon season continues on across the southwestern part of the country. Moisture in northern California, Pacific Northwest, maybe a little bit overdone, but again, brings to your attention thunderstorm and lightning potential. Worst of the drought areas, we've made some modest improvement in some localized areas through northern Illinois into Michigan. I do believe we're going to continue to see, even at this point in summertime, categorical improvements to dryness and drought in the central, or at least the Great Lakes areas of the Corn Belt. There should be further improvement as well, noted across Nebraska as well as Kansas, the upper Midwest. The only worst area really is along the divide and west. Eastern areas and through Montana should see some improvement. Florida's making some good improvement as well with dryness and drought. So the next 6 to 10 days, you can see that upper level ridge, that arcing of the last line in the plains. You can see that ribbon of stronger wind or lines coming out of southern Canada into southeastern Canada and into the northeast of New England. And there's just a little slight dropping to the south and west of the hot ridge. Systems are still, as we say, coming over the top. They have Gulf moisture. If you could break the atmospheric cap, you could drive a thunderstorm into the heat and humidity into the Midwest. May not like the outcome, but you'll get rain out of it. That's the only way outside of a tropical system we can make rain this time of the year. No super endorsement, the right idea from the feds with hot weather continuing on the next 6 to 10 days. And this is generally a pretty good depiction, a little too exuberant in the Pacific Northwest, the right idea for the northern plains, and probably would like to see maybe a little more above the northern and eastern parts of the Corn Belt. But the dryness and drought are pretty much an afterthought around here now. And we'll, by the way, as we get deeper into the summertime and harvest season, talk about that. Tomorrow, Sarah and I will get together for the 30-minute live stream, 1 o'clock Central. And there we will update the rest of the summertime, at least the way we apply it to meteorological fall, 20th or 21st of September. We'll have a start to the fall outlook as well. maybe a couple of bullet points on what the early winter season we'll talk about. And again, I don't care what, we've heard a lot that El Nino's over with. We don't think so here in this office. We continue to see pretty quiet. It'll be a hyperactive, but sort of a mid or even late starting tropical season. Once that gets going, and if we're locked into this hot, high pressure area thing in the plains, then that could be a benefit to get things to maturity. The beans, you like to see some August rains, early September rains. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But going forward, it may work out as we have been talking about to our benefit to get into that dry, kind of drought-y weather pattern. And right now, we should have a pretty good early and often start to the harvest season. We'll talk about rains later in the harvest season, the fall season, and again, a couple of thoughts on winter time. And I think that should be, and your questions as well, right, Sarah?
Right. Bring your questions. It's a live session, and sounds like there's lots to talk about, and lots to dig into.
I can always find lots to talk about weather. You may not like it, maybe kind of boring. I can tell stories, but in any event, looking forward to getting together for a half hour on Wednesday, tomorrow, the 23rd. And we'll kind of get things lined up on how I think the rest of the summer, if the autumn is going to go. From this vantage point, looking pretty favorable. We'll just put it that way, but we'll have the details on Wednesday.
Very good. That's tomorrow, Wednesday at 1 p.m. feedstuffs.com on Feedstuffs 365. So we will see you tomorrow, Greg, and we'll see all of you too, we hope. Thank you so much.